Hello and welcome. Welcome back to another conversation or interview which I created from last year. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Noushin, and I have a passion to bring the conversation about our consciousness into our daily life. And for this series, the topic is how to honor our soul by expressing our uniqueness and our individuality. And today I have this conversation with Elaine Kessler, which if I want to go through her credential, it's going to be half of our time. So with your permission, Elaine, I just read your bio because I'm just so impressed at who you are, and it's perfect for our topic as your uniqueness. So Elaine operates Elaine Kessler Photography and directs Created Equal Trigger Exhibits, an art organization that generates dialogue, collaboration, and data. An adjunct faculty in the arts at Park University in Gilbert. Elaine is also a former faculty associate in ASU Asian Pacific American Studies program and in the Hugh Bruns School of Human Communication. Elaine holds a MA degree in creative enterprise and cultural leadership. She also completed graduate work in performance studies and Southeast Asian studies. She was a Wilson Scholar at William and Mary and an Institute Fellow at Northwestern University Center for Global Culture and Communication. Elaine was awarded Businesswoman of the Year in 2019 and Volunteer of the Year in 2017, and is a Flynn Brown Fellow in the Arizona Center for Civic Leadership Academy. Elaine is married to William Jones, and together they have two incredible kids, Adele and Elise. Arizona has been their home since 2001. In addition to all things art-related, Elaine is a fanatic for dogs, adhesive products, stationery, and Brazilian cocktails. Elaine, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Definitely is a perfect fit for your individuality and your uniqueness.
Good. Thank you.
How you get to be all that?
How did I get to be all that? That's a great question. It's interesting. This time of year, I'm actually giving a number of presentations, and I've been working to kind of cultivate the story that share with people, like how have I arrived to where I've arrived. And I have to say, it always starts with my family. It starts with my parents. My parents met during the Vietnam War, and they each brought to the relationship something unique and amazing. And I was raised with their uniqueness and their amazingness. And I think I got some of their better traits, from each of them, some of their better traits. And as I've learned more about family, I've been able to cultivate some of the legacies that I think have been important to people that have come before me.
Okay, so I want to clarify that you're coming from like two different cultures.
That's right. My father is Anglo, and he's from Pennsylvania, and he was stationed in Thailand during the Vietnam War. My mother is from Thailand. She's from a rural part of Thailand, northeast, called Udon Thani. And they met while he was stationed there. My grandmother was my dad's maid in the barracks on base. And she said, "You need to meet my daughter." And well, he met my mom, and they got married. So they got married, and then my dad was in the service for 20 years. And we moved around quite a bit. I was born in Arizona, but we lived abroad a few times. And then we came back to Arizona for a little bit, and then we moved ultimately to Virginia, and I consider Virginia home. So I was raised in the backdrop of the South with a Thai Asian woman as my mother and a white Anglo man as my father. She's Buddhist, he's Christian, she speaks Thai, he speaks English. She's brown, he's white. So it was a very interesting hodgepodge of characteristics growing up in my house.
Wow. So I'm sure that brings a lot of richness for both cultures and both differences.
Yeah.
So how was it for you to grow up in that uniqueness? Because I'm an immigrant, but because my ex, we are both from the same culture, same country. So my kids, they had only like one culture and then learning how to live in US. But how was it for you that it was two different cultures?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know anything else, so it wasn't as if I could say it was hard or easy. Maybe in hindsight, it was complicated.
Mhm.
My parents had a dynamic and interesting relationship. They did really well at the beginning of their relationship, and then toward the end, not so well. So I got to see, a relationship not begin, but I got to see it when I was little and have it evolve into something that wasn't workable. And I think culture played a big part in that. So they spent a lot of time moving from location to location with the service, with military, and that always brought them together. And then when we got to Virginia, my dad eventually retired, and they didn't move anymore. So my mom found her niche with her Thai friends and her Thai community and her Buddhist community. And my dad had his niche with his military friends or retired military friends. And they kind of grew apart. So, culturally, it was complicated toward the end. But it was really neat. For Thanksgiving, we'd have a Thai feast instead of turkey or whatever you have, for Thanksgiving. My mother spoke Thai most of the time, and she had an altar in the house for Buddhism. And so I learned a little bit about Buddhism. I went to the Wat with my mom, and then we'd go to church with my dad. And so it was definitely enriching to have these different perspectives. And I think that definitely informed my perspective on how to be in the world, that there isn't just one way to be, you know?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned, I firsthand have that experience that there is no one way, there is no one culture, or, they're all beautiful in their own uniqueness. And
Yeah.
that's why I want to bring it to daily conversation that, we see how we can separate ourselves rather than how we can celebrate all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And how to bring it together and make it like a beautiful tapestry,
Yeah.
colorful tapestry. So that's my intention, and I'm just like so excited to hear your side of the story. And so how it was for you to be so accomplished in so many different things and bringing that uniqueness everywhere you go. And I'm sure it shows in your photography. Because before, I'm just going to say it a little bit, I don't know, I shared that before with you. The first time that I got to know or hear your name, it was a display of one of your photographies, that it was a gentleman with tattoo all over his body, and he was holding a baby. Like something that, in our control mind, we cannot think about a masculine man with tattoo all over can be as fragile to holding a baby. So when I look at the photographer, I say, oh my God, I have to meet the photographer. And here you go. I met you, and it was just wonderful. So I'm sure you show this uniqueness through your work. So how is it unfold for you?
Yeah. Well, ever since I was a kid, I've always been involved in the arts. So I have always expressed myself through artistic displays. Ever since I was little, I did painting, and then as I got older, I started to get a little bit more sophisticated with my techniques. I did stained glass art, I did paper art, and then I really got into the performing arts. So I wrote plays, I performed plays, I produced plays, and then I sang. I did lots of singing. I didn't do any songwriting, but I did lots of singing, and performing and expressing myself was really important. And I learned at some point, not sure at what point in my trajectory, but I learned at some point that I had a story that was worth telling, and people were interested in it. And it was a little bit different because growing up in the States, a lot of people back when I was growing up, a lot of people had homogenous households. So their parents looked the same or came from the same background or had similar cultural intersections, where my parents were vastly different. And I felt like a really neat compilation of them both. And now with photography, I really look for opportunities to showcase the diversity in our town, the diversity in our community. That's really important to me. And the more I look for it, the more I see it. And so people say, you know, well, Arizona is not very diverse, or where I live in Gilbert's not very diverse. And I think you just have to open your eyes. You just have to look. And if you look, you will find what you're looking for. And so, yeah, that's contributed to my perspective in a great big way, as far as having diverse parents, and having me be able to see the diversity in the world.
Great. And now you have your own family, how it shows up in your children's world.
Yeah. So it's really important to me that my kids know how vast the world is, and for them to have a really great perspective about the world. So we travel. We went to Thailand in November, and we actually met my mother there. My mom, I flew her out from Virginia. She met us in Chiang Mai, and my kids got to see Thailand through her eyes. And that was really important to me, that we have this multi-generational approach to travel. So we spent a couple of weeks there, and they got to experience Thailand, the food, the scents, the people, the smell, all of it. And my mom was there to give kind of her commentary, which was really valuable. And then we went to Pennsylvania, which is where my dad is from. We spent a week there, and that was also great. My dad came out and spent some time with us, and it was important for me to have them see his perspective of his homeland. And then we go to Mexico, and where else did we go? Vegas. We also went to Vegas. So we like to travel. We like to see different places. And I try to make sure my kids' perspectives are informed by the diversity that is our world. I don't want them to ever think that there's one right way to do things, or one right way to look, or one right way to be. There's so many ways of being in the world, and I want them to know that all of them work. All of them can work.
Yes. Yes. So was there, I'm sure there was, if you're willing to share, the point that when you were growing up and those diversity was challenging for you, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because I'm working on a talk right now. I'm going to be delivering it on February 6th, and I'm going to talk a lot about sort of the challenges. And one of the challenges was that I grew up in Virginia, which is the part of Virginia I grew up in was the South. It was south of the Mason-Dixon line, so it's considered the South. So a lot of Black people, a lot of white people, not a lot of brown people. So it was very uncomfortable for me, because people, there's a story that I tell, and I'll just tell it here because I don't know when this is going to come out, but when I was in middle school, I noticed this boy always looking at me. His name was Jason. He was always looking at me, and I thought, well, maybe he likes me. And I was like, maybe I like him. And I got, I was like, huh. So I told my girlfriend, Wendy, I said, Wendy, I think Jason likes me. He's always looking at me. And I was like, can you find out? So she said she would find out, and she goes and she does whatever she does. And later on that day, I was really nervous. I had butterflies. When you're in middle school, you're thinking all this stuff. And anyway, she comes to me and he says, oh, Jason doesn't like you. He's trying to figure out if you're black or white. And I was like, oh. And that was the first time that I felt like, oh, I didn't know my identity impacted other people. I didn't know that how I looked or how I was in the world mattered to anybody. And so, it was painful, because here I was thinking this kid liked me, and he was not interested in me. He was just puzzled by me. So that was the first time that in my young adulthood, or my juvenile time, where I was noticing, maybe I'm a little bit different. And people called me Oreo, because they thought I was both black and white. It was very confusing for people to understand. And sorry, I'm going to try and fix the light. Maybe right there. Good. And then it wasn't until college that I actually got really present to my racial identity as a woman of color. So I read multicultural literature. I was exposed to multicultural literature in undergrad, and I realized, oh my gosh, there are strong women of color who are proclaiming their identities and their womanhood through their racial identity. And I was like, I think that's me. I think that's who I am. And so I started to call myself a biracial Asian American and a woman of color. And that cleared things up. From that point forward, I was really clear that I know who I am racially. I know who I am ethnically. And I don't know, the confusion was gone. But that was in college. So I spent a lot of sorry, I'm going to try to fix the light. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time trying to figure out why it was so hard. And it wasn't until I read some work by Cherie Moraga and Gloria Anzaldúa and Maria Campbell, these writers who talked about being brown, and what it meant to be brown and mixed. And I was like, oh yeah, that resonates with me. So, I can be a strong brown woman too.
Yes, yes. And, in my own experience, because by ethnicity, when, you go and you fill out the paperwork, they ask you your race.
Yeah.
I'm originally white, but I'm from Middle East. But there is no such a thing that you can, they ask you either white or, I am white because I'm coming back to, the Anglo-Saxon and Caucasian background.
Yeah.
But I'm from Middle East. So how you can do that? So always I was just like, putting another box, white from Middle East.
Yeah.
My own box, created my own box, right? So, but what a great way, as you shared, that, in a very, very young age, you notice that your being can affect other people. And obviously you use it in a very, very productive way, that who you are in a cultural mix, and you bring the best of both worlds and impact not even your life, but the life of a lot of people through your work. And, all this that you accomplish is just like fascinating to hear, what you share. Anything else? Because I want to have the honor of your time. I know how busy you are, and you gave your time so generously to me. But anything else you would like to share about that?
Let's see. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's so many different stories that I can come up with from my childhood. But when I got into college, and I was a first generation college student with mixed origins at a school that was predominantly white. Very few people of color. I learned so much about myself, and I ended up marrying an Anglo. I married a white man, and for maybe the first 8 years of our marriage, we get along great. We have a fantastic relationship, but I did wonder, would I have had a better relationship with somebody who is also mixed, with somebody who also has had to deal or grapple with racial identity or ethnic identity, cultural identity. And what I found is that with him, he's open and accepting. So he's open and accepting, and he's willing to learn. So, when I'm grappling with something, I can bring it to him, and he's always willing to have the conversation with me. It's never confrontational. It's not hostile, which is amazing, because some people might feel attacked, and he never seems to have felt attacked. And then with my children, they're 25% Thai. So one of them looks more ethnic than the other one. One looks a little bit more fair. They both have a nice, a little bit of brown in their skin. They tan up really beautifully. But
that's the plus.
Yeah, that is pretty nice. But being in Arizona, it's complicated, because for my identity and for my little one's identity, that's a little bit browner. People often think that we're Latina. So it's, people speak to us in Spanish, or sometimes people think that we belong to an American Indian tribe, Native American tribe. And so it's a little bit complicated living in Arizona. This landscape makes the identity puzzle a little bit more interesting than the South. But I have felt very welcomed here by people of color. So that's been awesome. I don't ever foresee returning to the South. I think that Arizona is my home. It's a border culture. It's a border state. I love that there is diversity here, represented by being on the border. So yeah, I think we're here to stay. But sometime I think it might be nice to live in another country where there are more people of color, or there's more diversity, more celebration of diversity. I would like that. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah. So I have one more question. In your own being, in your own daily life activity, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself more go like as a person that you're coming from Thailand, either mentally, emotionally, culturally, all that, or because you are living in US, so it's so more obvious that you're gonna lean towards that. But how is that for you?
Yeah. Well, I do probably have more Buddhist tendencies than I do Christian tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say, or one could argue that a lot of the, thought processes are similar in different religions. So they all kind of align at some point. But there are things that I believe in. Like, I believe that all life is suffering. I believe that. And I believe that it's important to be present to the suffering. And I believe that, and it's important to let things go and not be attached to things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in an afterlife. Maybe I could be, I could argue the possibility for reincarnation, but I don't believe in heaven or hell. So there are some things that I've taken from my upbringing that I've kind of shaped into my own beliefs. So yeah, I don't believe in heaven or hell, and I don't believe that you're punished or rewarded. I just believe that this is our life and we have one shot at it, and we really should do our best to honor this one life that we know we have. And so it's tough sometimes for me to understand or align with the Christian perspective of investing in life now for the purpose of a greater afterlife later. Like, that's really hard for me to grasp. And I love having conversations with people about it, but there are probably more Buddhist tendencies in my belief system than there are Christians or Anglo beliefs. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's great to be in the life of Elaine Kessler and all that diversity and beautiful background. So really, I have many questions, and I would love to have this conversation more in other opportunities, that how we can bring that to our daily life. But I really appreciate your time and your conversation, your richness from both cultures, and how beautifully you bring them together. If you have any link for your photography or anything, please let me know so we can share it with this video and people that they are interested in your work and how they can reach you.
Yes. Well, you can do, the photography website is ElaineKesslerPhotography.com, but you can also find me on Facebook at Elaine Kessler Photography and on Instagram at Elaine Kessler. And you can always come by my studio, which is at Val Vista and Baseline in Gilbert. So there you go.
Any new event is coming up?
So I am presenting on a panel on January 29th in Gilbert at Colby Falls by Wedgwood Weddings. I'm presenting about business owners and sort of the speed bumps, hiccups, things that people encounter when it comes to business. And then on February 6th here at the studio in the courtyard, I'm presenting a GEM talk, which is a Gilbert educational motivational talk sponsored by the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce at 4:30. So that's what's coming up.
That's awesome. Yes, we have a lot of friends from Gilbert, so definitely we share this video and everybody can be informed, and we published all the links to your great work.
Thank you
so much again, and I love you, and it's really my honor to have this conversation with you and get to know you.
Thank you, Noushin. I appreciate it. It's good to see your face. All right, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.